I knew something was wrong when I didn't get a text back. The party had started 2 hours ago. The party I booked, the one I paid for, deposit and all. When Mom didn't have it this month and Mia couldn't dip into her savings again. Because the baby's coming. I just said, "Don't worry, I've got it." Because I always do. I was at work when I saw the stories start going up. Mia had tagged everyone, her pink dress, the silver balloons, the cake that I picked out, because she's allergic to coconut. It all looked right. Except I wasn't in a single photo, not even in the background. Not even a blurry elbow. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the typing bubble, waiting to ask where I should park when I got there. But it disappeared. So I waited and waited. At 8:52 p.m., Mom finally replied. "Sorry, honey," I thought. "You had to work late." I did. But they knew that. I said I'd come straight after. I even texted Mia earlier in the week asking what time she wanted everyone seated. She didn't reply then either. She'd left me on red. I stood outside the venue for a long time. It was one of those renovated rooftop places. String lights, fire pits, jazz playlist. I could see them through the glass wall, laughing, passing plates. Mia with that overdone. Floral crown she bought last minute. I waited another 10 minutes. Then I walked in. No one looked up. I walked slowly past the tables. The air smelled like garlic shrimp and toasted bread. The kind of catered comfort food Mia liked. The kind I paid extra for. They'd taken my name off the reservation sign. Instead of "Reserved Ava," it now said "Mia's Night." They were scraping cake from plates when I approached. I stood near Mom. "Hey," I said quietly. She blinked at me. "Oh, Ava, you made it." Then she turned back to her wine glass. Later, in the corner where the leftover trays were boxed up, I saw that not a single plate had been saved for me, not one. Even the staff looked confused when I asked. I didn't make a scene. I didn't say anything. I just walked over, picked up one of the foil trays, the lemon herb chicken I ordered because it was Mia's favorite, and walked out, the side door. I didn't even take a slice of the cake, just the leftovers. I walked home under the yellow streetlights with the tray in my arms like it was a gift. The sky smelled like spring, trying to pretend it was still winter, and for the first time in a long time I didn't cry. Not even once. The tray sat untouched in my fridge for 3 days. I didn't want to eat it. I just wanted it to be there. A kind of evidence. Proof that I had been part of something, even if they didn't notice. Or maybe it was the only part of the evening I could claim without being told I was overreacting. Mia never texted. Neither did Mom. I thought maybe they'd reach out when they saw the final bill go through, when the second half of the payment I'd fronted processed from my card. But no one mentioned it. No thank you. No, we forgot you were coming. No fake apologies wrapped in emojis. Just silence. I went back to work like nothing had happened. Smiled when customers handed me their orders, told the barista to have a good day. But something in me had cracked. Not loudly, not like glass. More like that soft tear in fabric you don't notice until the breeze hits your skin. On Thursday, I went to visit Grandma. She lives alone, 2 neighborhoods away, in the same house she's had since I was born. She's the only one who doesn't ask for anything. She just pours tea into chipped cups and lets the silence fill the space. She doesn't have Instagram. Doesn't know what Mia's baby shower looked like. She only knows I've been quiet, lately. When she opened the door, she looked at my face and didn't ask what was wrong. She just said, "Stay for dinner." I sat at her kitchen table and watched her stir soup in her oldest pot. It smelled like rosemary and comfort. She didn't speak until the broth started to simmer. "You've always been the one holding things together," she said, eyes on the flame. "But even glue gets tired." I think that's when I finally let myself feel it. Not anger, not sadness. Just that soft, tired ache. The kind that builds over years of being left out of your own generosity. I told her everything. About the party, the plate, the text that never came, and how I walked home with cold chicken while they danced without me. She listened without flinching. Then she reached under the counter and pulled out one of her old dessert tins. The kind she used to store cookies in, even though the label still said butter biscuits. She opened it and pulled out a folded stack of bills. "Maybe 200. Maybe more. For your rent," she said, "and for your heart." I shook my head, eyes burning. "Grandma, I can't." "You already did," she said gently. "Too much." That night, I reheated the lemon herb chicken, ate it slowly, with rice and soup from her kitchen, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel invisible. I felt like someone had seen me, not for what I gave, just for being there. The next morning, I didn't check my phone, not because I was trying to make a point. I just didn't want to play that game anymore. The one where you unlock your screen hoping for a message, only to find silence staring back. Ghost notifications, I call them. The hope hurts more than the truth. I washed Grandma's soup container, wrapped it in a cloth towel, and carried it back to her house before noon. She was outside watering the small garden she refuses to let go of. Tomatoes, mint, overgrown basil. Things no one but her really tends to. "I don't want the money," I said again, handing back the tin. "I mean it." She just shrugged, like she'd already known I would. "Then keep it until you need it." The truth was I did need it, not just for rent, but for something deeper. For the part of me that had been patching holes in this family for years, using time and money and silence as thread. It had started long before the party. There was the time I lent Mia $500 for her car down payment. "Just until next payday," she'd said. That was 18 months ago. Or the Christmas I stayed up baking cookies for Mom's friends because she was too tired. Then got called dramatic when I asked why she'd told them Mia had done it. "You're always so sensitive, Ava," she'd say. "Let things go." So, I did. Again and again. Until there wasn't much of me left to hold on to. On Friday, I got a message. It was from Mia. "Hey, do you still have the leftover pasta? The caterer forgot to give us an extra tray." That was it. No greeting, no question about where I'd been, no apology. I stared at it, rereading it like maybe the words would change into something softer, something human. They didn't. I didn't respond right away. I just closed the app and walked into the kitchen. I opened the fridge, looked at the half tray of untouched garlic pasta sitting on the second shelf. Then I took it out, opened the lid, and scooped 2 big servings into a bowl. I ate it cold. Not out of pettiness, but because I wanted to. I paid for it. I chose it. I wasn't going to hand it back like it was never mine. I boxed the rest up and put it in the freezer. For me. Because I was done giving away things that cost me everything. Just so someone else could feel full. I didn't tell anyone I wasn't coming to Sunday dinner. They assumed I'd be there. I always was. Like the furniture, like the chipped dishware no one replaces but everyone uses. Reliable, unchanging, silent. I used to think that meant I mattered. But this time, I just didn't go. I stayed in bed with socks pulled up to my knees and a blanket I hadn't washed in a week. I played the same song on repeat, one without lyrics, just piano, and watched the late sun fall through the curtains like honey across dust. At 6:43 p.m., Mom called. I let it ring. Then again at 7:12. I turned the phone face down. She didn't leave a voicemail either time. On Monday, I got a text from Mia. Mom's annoyed. She said you're being distant. No question. No, are you okay? Just an accusation softened with passive tone. I stared at it for a long time, my thumb hovering. Then I opened notes instead. Wrote down every time I'd rearranged my life. For them. Every holiday I'd worked double shifts to afford their gifts. Every missed birthday of mine that passed like fog. It took 3 pages. When I looked up, it was almost dark. I didn't reply. I went for a walk instead. No destination. Just the sound of my shoes on pavement, and the air finally cooling after days of pretending it was still spring. I passed by a bakery window and saw a small family inside. A little girl blowing out candles while 2 parents clapped like it was the most beautiful thing in the world. No decorations, no planner, just light and frosting and love. I didn't feel jealous, just empty in a new way. When I got back to my apartment, I sat on the floor, the cold tiles grounding me. Then I pulled out a pen and an envelope. To Mom, I wrote at the top, and then for the first time in my life, I told the truth. I rewrote the letter 5 times. The first draft sounded like begging. The second sounded like blame. By the third, I realized I wasn't writing for them anymore. I was writing for me. To see the words outside of my head. To name the weight I've been carrying in their silence. The final version was short. Not cold. Not cruel. Just honest. I've spent most of my life giving quietly. I thought it would earn love, or at least a seat at the table. But now I understand. Love doesn't need proof. It doesn't forget you in photos or leave you standing at doors you paid to open. So I'm stepping back. Not in anger, just in exhaustion. Please don't call this dramatic. Don't ask what's wrong. You already know. I folded it carefully. No signature. Just a pressed flower between the pages. One from Grandma's garden. The last bloom of her basil plant, dried between a book she lent me weeks ago. I mailed it the next morning. Not because I wanted a response, but because I wanted the silence to finally belong to me. That week, I went to work like normal, said, "Good morning" to my neighbor, fed the cat that sometimes wandered onto my balcony. Life didn't shift in a dramatic way. It just became quieter. No missed calls. No texts asking where I was. They noticed, I'm sure. But noticing isn't the same as caring, and I was done settling for the difference. On Friday, Grandma called. Her voice was soft and slow, like the rain outside my window. "I made too much soup again," she said. "Thought maybe you'd want to help me with the extra." I almost cried. "I'd love to," I said, and I meant it, not because I was hungry, but because she always remembers I exist. Grandma's house smelled like ginger and cloves when I arrived. She had music playing softly, one of those old records with static woven through the melody. The kind of song that sounds like a memory you never lived, only inherited. She didn't ask how I was. She just handed me an apron, and I tied it around my waist like a ritual I hadn't realized I missed. We chopped carrots side by side. The kind of silence between us wasn't uncomfortable. It was warm, like we were letting the air rest between words instead of forcing them. The soup simmered in the background, a steady rhythm that held the space. "I read your letter," she said eventually. My hands paused over the cutting board. She continued, voice even. "Your mother dropped by. Unannounced, like always. She left it on the table." My stomach clenched, waiting for judgment. But Grandma only stirred the pot. It was the first time I've seen her speechless in years. I blinked. "She said you were being distant. I told her you were finally being honest." A silence stretched between us again, this time heavier. "She didn't stay for soup," Grandma added, almost like a joke, but I could hear the sadness beneath it. "She didn't call me either," I murmured, unsure if I was relieved or disappointed. "She's still figuring out how to live with the fact that you're not bending anymore." We ate in the small dining room with the wobbly chair she always forgets to fix. She gave me the good bowl, the one with the blue rim and a tiny crack running through the edge. My favorite. "It's funny," I said, spoon halfway to my mouth. "I spent so long just trying to be enough." "You were always enough," she said simply. I looked down, blinking faster than I wanted to. "Maybe next time," she added. "Make your own party." The words landed softer than I expected, like planting something in soil that's finally ready. Later that night, back in my apartment, I opened my phone. No new messages, but I didn't feel the usual hollowness. Instead, I opened a calendar app, picked a date 2 months from now. Then I created an event and titled it simply, "Dinner with People Who See Me." I didn't invite anyone yet, but for the first time in a long time, I was starting with myself. The invitation list stayed empty for a while, not because I had no one, but because I wanted to be sure of who deserved a seat, of who would notice if I wasn't there. I think for most of my life, I mistook availability for loyalty. If someone showed up, even halfway, I let them stay. I bent so far in their direction, I forgot what it felt like to stand still. But now, I was learning how to stand, and the quiet felt different, less lonely, more honest. Mia finally texted again. "Hey," Mom said, "you're not talking to anyone?" "She's worried." The word made me laugh, soft and bitter. Worried. Worried people call. Worried people show up when they forget your plate and realize you were the one who paid for every wine glass on that table. I didn't reply. Instead, I took a photo of the still wrapped pasta container in my freezer, the one with her name written on it in fading Sharpie, and deleted it from my phone. Then I threw the container away, not out of spite, out of release. Grandma came by the next Sunday. She brought orange scones and a thrifted book of poems with a note tucked inside. "For your dinner, when you feel ready." We sat on the balcony even though it was too cold. I brought out blankets, and she brought stories I'd never heard before, about her own sister, who once forgot to invite her to a wedding because she assumed I'd be too tired. "She wasn't wrong," Grandma said with a small laugh. But it still stung. I leaned against the chair rail and watched the city pulse below. The streetlights came on one by one like they were deciding something together. That night, I added my first guest to the calendar event. Grandma. Then I added myself too, because I wasn't going to wait for a family that only saw me when it suited them. I wasn't going to keep shrinking into silence while they feasted on my effort. The next day, I walked past a cafe with fairy lights tangled in the windows and a little handwritten sign that said, "Now booking private dinners." I stepped inside. The cafe wasn't big. 12 seats max. Mismatched chairs. A crooked chalkboard menu. Everything smelled faintly of vanilla and old books. The kind of place you'd walk past 100 times and never notice, unless you were looking for something real. I booked the space for a Thursday evening. Quiet on purpose. Just after sunset, when the light goes soft and gold through the windows, and no one is rushing anywhere. I only invited 4 people. Grandma, of course. Jenny from work, who once brought me soup when I had a cold, even though we weren't close. Marisol, my old roommate, who always texted on my birthday even after we moved out. And myself. I wrote my own name at the top of the RSVP list. A small act, but it felt like reclaiming something no one had ever thought to give me. The night of the dinner, I wore a sweater I'd never worn before. Forest green. A little too soft, a little too expensive. A gift to myself. I got there early, lit the candles, straightened the cutlery, laid one single flower, a sprig of basil from Grandma's garden, at each place. No streamers, no hashtags, no seat rearrangements, just real people. Gentle laughter, bread broken with intention. They all showed up, and they all saw me, not as someone who footed the bill, not as the background to someone else's spotlight. Just me, quiet, kind, present. Halfway through dessert, Grandma leaned over and whispered, "You know, you never needed their seat at the table. You were always your own room." I nodded, because now I finally understood. Mom never responded to the letter. Mia posted another carousel the next week, her baby bump wrapped in satin, the caption full of light and curated warmth. I didn't like it. I didn't comment. I didn't look twice. Not out of anger, out of clarity. Some silences are boundaries. Some absences are gifts. And not everyone who shares your blood deserves your softness. When the cafe dimmed its lights at closing, I walked home slowly. The night air felt clean. My footsteps didn't echo, because I wasn't walking away from anything. I was walking toward something I built, quietly, softly, fully mine. And this time, there was a seat saved for me.